Joining us tonight to talk more about tomorrow's big event is Eleanor Tatum, publisher and editor-in-chief of the New York Amsterdam News, and Aimee Cox, assistant professor of African American Studies at Fordham University. Ladies, thank you for coming by tonight.
It's a pleasure.
I want to ask both of you guys a question to start off. 1963, Dr. King called for justice and equality. Would he be happy, Eleanor, with where we are right now, 50 years later?
I think he would be happy with some things, but I think he would be truly disappointed in a lot of other things, especially when it to justice. I mean, we're still fighting for so many of the same things we were fighting for 50 years ago. So much has changed, but so much has stayed the same.
Aimee, same thing pretty much?
I agree, and I think when we use the language of the march, a lot of times we talk about memorializing and commemorating, which gives the sense that we're stuck in time. And so, as Eleanor said, a lot of the things around civil rights, not just African Americans, we're still fighting for. Poverty, education, and so there's a lot to be proud of, but also a lot of work that continues on.
Eleanor, you were at the march this past Saturday. How will tomorrow's ceremony be different from what you saw on Saturday?
Well, number one, the president will be there, and several prior presidents will be there as well. And it is a state-sponsored, basically, event. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what other organizations are involved, like they were involved in the original march 50 years ago. You know, Saturday's march was civil rights organizations, labor unions, all coming together to fight for everything that King fought 50 years ago.
Aimee, how important will tomorrow be in influencing a younger generation of kids and educating them on the importance of equal rights?
Well, what I think is important to remember is that the civil rights movement before and during and after the march was really led by courageous young people, right behind the scenes. And we're still seeing that today with the defenders who organized after the Zimmerman verdict, and young people in less visible ways in their communities who are fighting for the right to be seen as human, who are fighting for the right to not be criminalized. So I think the Educate Tomorrow important way, and what I think we'll see tomorrow is also young people still at the forefront, perhaps in a more visible way than they even were in 1963.
Eleanor, is the younger population, and as she said, it's great to see how much they're coming. Is the younger population involved enough? Do you think they realize the importance of racial equality today?
Well, I mean, I think they realize the importance of racial equality, but we have a whole generation that has been born in the last 10 years that in their mind, they've always had a black president. Mm-hmm. So we've, quote-unquote, arrived in that respect. So these marches are so important because we need to show those young people in particular that that did not happen in a vacuum,
right,
and that it was this fight, and this fight continues, and that we have to be vigilant, and we have to get these young people involved, because if we don't want Barack Obama to be the only black president ever. We want him to be the first and many to follow.
Do you guys think that racism in this country will ever be eradicated? When you look at something like that, it's almost like when you look at, peace in the Middle East. I mean, this could be going on another 1,000 years from now. Is this something that you guys think will ever, where everybody says, you know what, we've reached where we've needed to reach?
So much has to change for that to happen. And we are talking about on every level, from education to health care to politics, media, for that to happen, because so much feeds on hate and helps perpetuate it.
I think that's true. I think we often think of racism as these individual acts. We have to think of structural issues. And so also power shifts, that we understand race to work and racism to work continues to shift and change, and we have to keep up with our language, with our strategies, and I don't know how well we're doing that.
As we come to a close on this, guys, how can we take the lessons learned back in 1963 and think and act differently and move it forward here starting tomorrow in 2013? I'll give you guys both a chance to answer that.
Well, first of all, we have to keep on fighting to get rid of racism, even though we may not be able to see it in our generations or our next generations. And we have to keep on being vigilant and teaching our young people that they need to continue to fight and they have to continue to seek equality.
I think it's important for us to figure out how we continue to mobilize across communities. So we're not just thinking about racism or justice, equality about one community's problem, but it's all of our issue to deal with collectively.
All right, Eleanor Tatum, Aimee Cox, thank you guys for coming in. We will all, of course, be watching on Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Thanks, guys, for coming in. Our own David Usher.